Have you ever looked at a giant office building, a skyscraper, and just wondered, what is that thing actually worth? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on exactly how professional investors figure that out. It's a method they use to find the real price of a property that's designed to make money.
So, seriously, how do they do it? Is it just a sophisticated guess, a shot in the dark, or is there an actual reliable method that the pros use to get to a hard number? Well, you can probably guess, there absolutely is.
The answer that the pros use is something called the income approach. And the idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. A building's value isn't just about its bricks and mortar. It's all about the stream of income that it can generate. This approach takes us way beyond guesswork and into a real financial calculation.
Okay, let's dive right into the big idea here. The entire income approach, the whole thing, is built on one central concept, and that concept is called capitalization. If you can wrap your head around this, you'll understand everything else we're going to talk about.
Now, I know that sounds a little dense, right? Like something straight out of a textbook. But here's what it really means in simple terms. Capitalization. It's basically a financial time machine. It takes all the money a property is expected to make in the future, and it converts that whole stream of income into a single number that represents its value right here, today. And believe it or not, this is how it's done. With this beautifully simple formula, value equals income divided by rate. V is the property value we're trying to find, I is the net income it generates, and R is this thing called the capitalization rate. So let's break down each piece of that puzzle, and we'll start with the I.
So let's get into it. That first variable, income. We have to find the right I to plug into our formula, and it's not quite as simple as just adding up all the rent checks for the year.
So what income are we really looking for here? Is it the absolute maximum amount the property could possibly make? Or is it the income after you've paid all the bills? Well, the number we need is something very specific, and it's called the net operating income, or NOI for short.
And here's the roadmap to find it. First, you start with the potential gross income. That's the absolute best case scenario, if every single unit was rented out every single day. Then, you've got to get realistic. You subtract an allowance for vacancies and any rent you couldn't collect. What's left is your effective gross income. And finally, from that, you subtract all your operating expenses. We're talking taxes, insurance, maintenance, the whole shebang, to get your true net operating income.
Let's put some real numbers to this so it makes sense. Imagine a small apartment building. Its potential income, best case, is $50,000 a year. Now we'll knock off 5% for vacancies, that's $2,500. That leaves us with an effective gross income of $47,500. Then we subtract $17,500 for all the operating costs. So the final result, our net operating income, the I in our formula, is $30,000. All right, let's hold on to that number.
Okay, we have our income. We've got the I. Now we need to tackle the second and, honestly, the more abstract part of our formula, the R. It's known as the capitalization rate, or what pretty much everyone calls the cap rate. And this is where the market's opinion really comes into play.
Now this is absolutely crucial. The cap rate does two very different jobs at the exact same time. It's not just about profit. It has to give you both a return on your investment and a return of your investment. Let's break that down because it's a huge distinction. So here's the difference. A return on your investment, that's the easy part. That's your profit. That's the reward you get for taking the risk. But a return of your investment is about getting your original money back for the physical building itself. Think about it. Land, it lasts forever. But buildings, they're wasting assets. They wear out, they get old. The cap rate has to include a little factor to account for that depreciation over time.
But here it is. This is the single most important thing to understand about the cap rate. It is a direct reflection of risk. This rate is not just pulled out of thin air. It's determined by what investors out there in the market are demanding for similar properties. So the higher the perceived risk of an investment, the higher the cap rate investors are going to demand to be compensated for taking that risk. It's that simple.
All right, we've done the hard work. We found our I, our net operating income, and we understand the R, the cap rate. Now it's time for the payoff. Let's bring it all together and finally calculate our property's value.
We are back to our simple but oh so powerful formula. Value equals income divided by rate. We've got our income figure. Now all we need is a cap rate from the market.
Remember our example property? After all our number crunching, we determined its net operating income was a solid $30,000 per year.
this is the I we're going to plug right into our equation. And here is the magic moment. Just watch how dramatically the cap rate impacts the final value. So, if investors in the market decide a fair rate for a property like this is 6%, we take our $30,000 income, we divide by 0.06, and we get a value of $500,000. Okay, but what if the market gets a little nervous? What if the rate for similar properties moves up to 7%? That exact same $30,000 income now gives us a value of just over $428,000.
I mean, let that sink in for a moment. Just a 1% change in the market's perception of risk created a massive $71,500 swing in the property's value. This shows the relationship perfectly. As the risk, and therefore the cap rate, goes up, the value of the property goes down.
So, let's do a quick recap of the big ideas here. First, capitalization is the tool that turns a future income stream into a present-day value. Second, the core formula is simple. Value equals net income divided by the cap rate. Third, that net income number is what's left after you account for vacancies and all your operating expenses. And finally, that all-important cap rate, it's set by the market and it's a direct measure of investment risk.
You see, this formula isn't just some abstract exercise for investors, it's a powerful lens for viewing the health of an entire market. So I'll leave you with this final thought. If this is how individual buildings get their price tags, what does it tell us when we start to see cap rates rising across an entire city? What does that signal about its economic future? Thanks for watching.